Hello guys, my name is Chris Brodkin, and I'm going to talk about eco-labeling and ecotourism. So, to begin with, we have to figure out what matters to customers. So we have a few things. Obviously, customers want to be safe and healthy and have some hygiene. They want to make sure it's around for the future, so they don't want to have their active tourism destroy the environment or the city or whatever they find desirable, so they can always come back to it. And of course, they always want positive interactions with locals, guests, anybody who are providing them a service. So we have to first talk about the different levels of tourism. We have international tourism, which crosses borders of countries. We have regional, which may be like the Eastern Bloc or like in North Africa, just a general sort of biome. We have national, which is like countries, and then subnational, that could be states, cities, counties, provinces, and any of those smaller bits. So let's talk about eco-labels and eco-certifications. Both of those have been, let's say, one is used for the other colloquially, and they're not the same. So eco-certification is the process by which a product has met a standard and been evaluated, and the eco-labeling is simply just the picture that you get, or like a logo that says you have a certification. So what are these things good for, these eco-labels and or certifications? They act like a sort of like a quality standard. So they can say, okay, this meets sustainability, this meets environmental practices, education, social good, it's healthy, all these different factors that you might find desirable. If you have this label, then it's achieved this standard. So speaking of standards, we have to figure out, okay, what type of standards are there? There's three basic types. There's the prescriptive type of standard, which is like you write a prescription from your doctor's office. Take 2 pills a day. In this case, it'll be each room must have so many lights, each building must have so many exits, and so on and so forth. Then you also have performance standards. Those are setting goals. Okay, so like you must donate so and so to charity, any other goals like that. Then of course you also have a management style. So you have a goal to achieve, and the management standard tells you how you should achieve it. It's a process-oriented one. So an example would be a company must have an employee environmental education program that's in place. And so they will tell you that it has to be there, but it can't assure any kind of quality, or it can't assure an outcome. For instance, if we talk about pollution, a management style standard would say there's things in place to mitigate it or prevent pollution, but it cannot guarantee that it will not happen. So who made these standards? There's an international organization of standardization. Americans, we call it the ISO, and it develops and agrees on different standards to each specific criteria, whether it be in tourism or lodging or food. However, they don't issue any of these eco certifications. Okay, those are done by third parties. Eco certifications labels, they have different processes, but all of them can basically be in about 5 steps. So first, your company has to have a need or desire to be certified. Either they want to do it or somebody is forcing them to do it. Then they have to find somebody who can evaluate them. So they find external companies, or they can be assessed by their own self. Once they do that, they can develop their own label if they, let's say, do a first party assessment, which we'll get to, or they have to get examined by an auditor. We call them auditors, even though not assessors. We don't know why, it just happened. But this auditor will determine the success or failure of the company, and then a certification will be either received or denied. Sometimes you have to get recertified or reevaluated. In that case, you just rinse and repeat the whole process and verify that. You have a second party certification, usually made again by these big corporations, big hotels, let's say like Hilton. They say, hey, all my suppliers meet a certain ecological standard, so these are good. Wendy's, banks, any sort of big corporations that want to control the products that the customer receives. And then of course you have the third party certification. Outside companies come in and say, hey, your company's doing a very good job, so you get an eco certification. And this is a little bit weird one. The last one is called a supplier's audit certification. It's a mix of the first and the third party. So this is me, myself, and my company. I make it known that my company has met or exceeded all the standards for the certification. And an outside company will come in and check my work and can check my assessments and say, hey, they are doing a very, very good job. You can believe when they say they've met the standards that they have. And this sort of just affirms me and my reputation that I'm doing my due diligence. All right, so there are a lot of labels. So how do we decide which label to choose? So we can ask a few different questions. Some that might be important to most eco-tourists would be, is there a sustainability strategy? Are the number of visitors counted? Is there a cultural heritage that might be protected? Any environmental factors that are maybe in danger of ruining the environment, or are they trying to help the environment? And so many others. So let's talk about these certifications. There's so many of them, but are they all the same? Well, that sounds kind of silly, because just like humans, not everybody's the same. Some are more thorough, some are more rigorous, and some are a little bit more loosey-goosey. So in order to give everybody a grade or put a standard on these evaluations and these certifications, they have to be accredited, just like the university. So there's these outside entities, they're usually national or international bodies that will give an accreditation to a certification program. An example would be in Australia, we have the National Ecotourism Accreditation Program, they call it NEAP. But since I'm no expert and neither are you, who can help us? Well, there's a major player called the Global Sustainable Tourism Council. They are nonprofit, and they are the largest interest group of sustainable tourism. What they do is they will give eco-labels a recognition that says this is a good label. You can bet when it says this product, let's say like Hilton hotels are green, then they really are green. Are there others? Of course, there are many other labels. Some are in the forms of certificates that might focus on hotels, travel, tourism, food. An example would be the Foundation for Environmental Education. They have something called the Green Key that has been awarded to 2,400 companies. Others can cover the pillars of sustainability. They're called people, planet, profit. All right. So before we leave today, I want you guys to answer one question. In your opinion, what are some problems that both developed and developing nations could encounter with eco-labeling in the tourism sector?